So, Russian propagandists continue to openly mock Trump, and they're doing it in multiple places. I'll show you two videos where they're doing that. Let's give Trump a Nobel Prize. And I don't know if that had anything to do with his demeanor yesterday or not, but they've been doing this over the last few days. They were also threatening capitals of major European cities. Here they're talking about Denmark, and here they're talking about how women in Russia see a guy with a prosthetic limb and now he's more attractive because he's on the dole, and I'll show you that. But the thing I want to really show you here is this, and that is a guest on a mainstream Russian TV channel goes off script and actually starts to complain about what the Russians are doing and how they're losing, and it's absolutely fascinating. So let's start with this. I came to the conclusion that I finally figured out which war Trump ended, and that's the war between Albania and Cambodia. Haha, that's true. Because after his visit to London, we know that Albania is Armenia and Cambodia is Azerbaijan. Not even Azerbaijan, but Azerbaijan. So they're mocking him. He understands everything. He talks about it many times. Does he not have anyone around to tell him, Mr. President, you're saying something wrong? So this is the Russians mocking Trump in their shows. And this has become more common lately, even though Trump was kind of doing their bidding. So let's go to the next one. This is Solyov's show. This is Solyov's show. He saved the whole world, he being Trump, and they're still not giving him the Nobel Prize. Let's give him a Nobel Prize from us. We can mint a cast iron medal. We can totally do it. What we see in relations between what Trump did with Azerbaijan and Albania, and they're mocking that. Azerbaijan and Albania, it's not Azerbaijan and Albania, it's Armenia. Didn't he stop the conflict? He did. His political declarations did not succeed. His most important one was meeting with Putin. They did succeed. Hold on a minute, Andrei Anatolievich. I agree that he is a huckster. Look, that's what Solyov is saying. That Trump's a huckster. Like they're attacking him, even though he's been doing like what Putin wants. They're still attacking him, saying he's a huckster and a buffoon. I agree. Just a minute. Our Trumpushka is being mistreated. If we talk about what Trump did with foreign policy, he didn't succeed with the claims that he made. As far as him being a huckster, I won't deny that. So they're agreeing that Trump's a huckster and, again, continuing to mock him. Definitely. You're wrong not to love our Trump. You have to overcome yourself, Andrei Anatolievich. Listen, it's not that I don't love him. I fear him. Oh, well, that's good. Because this man can lead to any turn of events. Trump is doing very well. He didn't like a show and said, get rid of it. It has low ratings. Now here he's talking about Jimmy Kimmel being suspended from ABC, which, by the way, Jimmy Kimmel is going to be back on ABC as of, I think, tonight, maybe tomorrow. Second time he said, get rid of him too. There's your real free American press. Now, they mock it because they don't have free press and they think that the rest of the world is kind of like them, and it's not. Protected by a constitutional amendment. So he says, let me fire all of them. America is moving away from its fundamental principles. Well, let's hope not. But again, they're mocking Trump and mocking America and so on and so forth. That's not new. That's par for the course. Attention, Denmark. Here's a quote. They know that if Russia strikes a NATO country, it would trigger World War III, but it doesn't necessarily have to be done by our hands. What? So these propagandists are arguing that if Europe is manufacturing arms, they are legitimate targets. Okay, here we go. Denmark has become the leader of hysteria supporting Ukraine. Greenland will be free. Ukrainian plants are being set up. Now Zelensky is calling on all European countries, following Denmark's example, to set up these so-called Ukrainian military plants in order to kill Russian citizens. Therefore, it must be officially declared that we consider them a legitimate target and destroy them with everything. Orishnik. I also believe that if a Ukrainian plant is set up, the country is at war with us. It makes it a legitimate target. Okay, that is why they are creating them there, because they know that if Russia strikes a NATO country, it would trigger World War III. Now, he's not wrong about that. If Russia did strike a munitions factory in Denmark, that would be the trigger of something like a World War III. Now, I'm going to show you something bizarre about Russian culture. It's not even the main feature of what I'm going to show you about how the guy goes off script, but listen to this. Women who have learned to use their special military operation for personal enrichment are very cunning and smart, says the propagandist. They get married or start a relationship with the SMO's fighter, and then they appropriate compensation for the injuries or death of this serviceman. That's charming. Moreover, the problem has become so serious and its scale already so large that it's impossible not to pay attention to it anymore. These cases that we already have in different regions are about this. When a woman pursues a man to marry her and then she sends him to the special military operation to get, what does she send him mean? Is he firewood? Just look, that's exactly what these women are doing today. They convince men to sign a contract to go to the SMO, and she's cut off. Vadim, you and I just have happy marriages. I somehow don't really understand this. I just don't really understand how a person in his right mind can be persuaded to sign a marriage certificate and be told that he will be sent off like luggage. Listen, a Russian woman does not need to be taught how to persuade someone. In certain cases, this is already like an industry where women offer themselves in order to receive these payouts. So it's like almost prostitution as a marriage in order to get money for whatever injuries or death that the serviceman may acquire in the process. Is this really a mass phenomenon? You don't look deep. Military registration and enlistment offices, hospitals. There are also women working for the SBU. They are called Malvinkas. We are now accept almost anyone for contract service. A man with mental disorders was accepted for a contract service and then was retroactively married. Oleg also writes us, he is disabled. He has a prosthesis. Listen to this. This is crazy. He recently noticed that when it's summer and he puts on shorts and his prosthesis is visible, there's an increased interest in him among females. But as soon as these interested parties find out that he is not a veteran of the SMO and that he lost his leg under some other circumstances, this increased interest immediately disappears. Kind of sick. Our wonderful women don't look very wonderful today, is a conclusion. Okay, let's get to the special feature, the thing that went off the rails. It's this. A guest on mainstream Russian TV goes off script, complains that Russia's invasion has almost gone as long as World War II, calls out the Russian Defense Ministry for lying, and says that it was a big mistake to underestimate Ukraine's armed forces. I don't know that this guy is going to be around too long, but we'll see what he had to say. Let's start with the fact that today is the 133rd day of the war. That is, of the special military operation. So, just a little is left, just 115 days before we surpass the duration of the Great Patriotic War. Now, that's an excellent point. Can you answer my question? I'll answer it. No, you weren't answering. You are engaged in your own traditional demagoguery while you know perfectly well that we are not conducting the special military operation by military methods. Okay, this is the kind of thing that the Russians hide behind. They start saying things like, well, if Russia really wanted to fight, then this wouldn't. No, but it's a limited war, and it's limited by nature. It can't be nuclear, and you can't mobilize without causing huge disruptions within your countries, and you know that. So it's kind of not a fair argument about the fact that Ukrainian army will run away altogether. As for the situation with losses, yes. With the outbreak of hostilities, the Ukrainian army went up to 800,000 people. Yes. Then along the way, it increased by somewhere near 100,000 to 120,000 per year. Thus, there can be no 1,700,000 or 2 million losses, because in that case, the Ukrainian army simply would not exist, right? Okay, the Russians do claim this. They claim, I see this in Russian propagandist posts regularly, that there's 17 or 1,700,000 or 2 million or some kind of outrageous number of Ukrainian losses compared to the, 200,000 Russian losses or something bizarre like that. Okay. Now I'll provide you with the specific data so that you can understand this, right? According to the data, including from our Ministry of Defense, 25,157 tanks and APCs were destroyed in the duration of the special military operation. He's talking about Ukrainian tanks or Western provided Ukrainian tanks. 25,000 were destroyed. That's what the Ministry of Defense is saying. That can't be. The most interesting thing is that the Ukrainian army had 4,371 of them at the beginning of the war. So, accordingly, now listen to this, accordingly, no matter what their numbers, could not have been increased up to 25,000. Like, even with Western help, it couldn't have got that. Same goes for their planes. They had 187 planes. According to our data, is the Russian Ministry of Defense engaged in lying? Not just ours. So I can give all these numbers. Unfortunately, if their military is still this strong, then where are the successes of the Ukrainian army? It's a huge mistake that we underestimate the Ukrainian army. Wow. Well, I mean, just wow that he was willing to say that. It's strong enough. So the possibility of drawing reserves remains. First of all, there are about 700,000 of them. Secondly, I'm sorry, of course, but if you believe all these numbers, the Ukrainian army doesn't exist. If you believe the Russian army's estimates from the Ministry of Defense of how many losses there are on the Ukrainian side, there is no Ukrainian army. It doesn't exist. And so what's stopping Russia? But the reality is they're just kind of making things up. Okay, last little bit. This is from the Z singer Shaman, the guy who sings "I'm Russian." Okay, people close to us. He's talking about Alaska. People close to us live there. People who originally have been imbued with our Russian culture and our spirituality. People who remember their ancestors and who have Russian names live there. Oh, well, you're gonna take it back? That might be problematic. All right, my friends, that's all that I have. Tell me what you thought about all these videos, particularly the women who are marrying servicemen so that they can send them off to war and collect paychecks, and the guy that went off script. I mean, tell me what you thought about that. Put that in the comments below. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.